101.5 FM at 7 minutes past 9. Good morning, everyone. This is the Morning Magazine for Monday the 16th, I think. Yes, it is. Monday the 16th of April. A big, long weekend. Some success on the football park for the Queensland Rugby League teams, wasn't it? All three of them getting home, so that was great news. 28th of April, Moreton Bay and Queensland decides their local council. The local government elections are set down for the 28th of May. A month overdue, of course. They were put back as a result of the state election, so there's plenty of candidates and incumbent councillors who are eagerly waiting for the 28th of April so that they can either move on, move forward, or decide where they go. Of course, as part of the ongoing commitment to our local community, 101.5 FM is having an in-depth look at all of the divisions across the Moreton Bay region, as well as the mayoral candidates. And today we move to the peninsula. We move to Redcliffe, and this is Division 5. Now, Division 5 takes in the northern half of Redcliffe. And joining us here today, live in the studio. Unfortunately, we do not have the incumbent here today, but we do have three candidates, and joining us is Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston and Terry Jones. Thank you all for your time, and we do appreciate it. Ladies first, Jackie, we might find out a little bit about yourself first. Why are you running for council? Why have you put your hand up for the Division 5 electorate, and what do you have to offer to the region?
Well, good morning, Darren, and good morning everybody who's listening. Why did I stand up? Because I got annoyed. I got very annoyed when I thought that our representatives weren't doing a good enough job, plain and simple. Unity Water was obviously the catalyst for everybody, I think, right through the Moreton Bay Regional Council area, which triggered off a lot of annoyance. And we were seeing waste. What we weren't seeing was our new big council fighting on our behalf. They seemed to roll over like puppy dogs in front of the state government, who enforced all of this upon us, and just took it. Whereas other councils, such as the Gold Coast Council, did something about it. They listened to the ratepayers and they cared and they did something about it. So basically I'm here because I got annoyed, and I think also the priorities are out of whack. We need to cut a lot of waste. We need to put off unnecessary, fanciful and grand projects and get into the nitty-gritty of it. The people that I'm speaking to are telling me that they've got problems with the infrastructure, footpaths, roads, bad maintenance, sewage. The sewage infrastructure has been badly neglected. We have a housing problem. There's so many issues other than the big glamorous vote-getting issues that we need to address.
Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston, why are you putting your hand up for Division 5?
Disappointment, actually, Darren, and some annoyance too. You know, we had 4 years to see how this council was going to function and whether or not it'd achieve a centre of gravity, whether it'd do a lot of good for the electorate. And they've spent, I'd say, around $25 million at least in Redcliffe Foreshore, but tragically, what has been produced is pretty bland. So what's annoying to me is they had the money, and they didn't put the design capacity into that. And it's ended up as a design you'd see from an engineer rather than a design you'd see from a landscape designer. Having been on the Redcliffe City Council for 17 years, having started to focus on this area back in 2000, having staged a Australia-wide landscape design competition for the same area, the winner was terrain. And they didn't even show the people on the committee the designs that Terrain produced. They were very, very creative, very original, very themed. They had a nautical theme, and this is right on the foreshore, remember, and they didn't even show them. So the other issue is the cost of living in your own home. I think it's more costly now than it was 4 years ago. And the end result is water costs more, the rates cost more. And water is one of the issues we have to bring under council control. And it can be done. I've looked at the report the council did. It's equivocation after equivocation, and the cost and the rate increase that are predicted won't happen. 142 of $187 million involved, supposedly, or the cost supposedly, are state government charges that won't apply. So the state government's got to address this, the council's got to address this, and you've got to have somebody in council sympathetic with doing that. The other issue in Redcliffe is the smaller electorate. I feel we should have a smaller electorate focusing on the bay, focusing on tourism where community interest is considered. And this is bringing in Deception Bay, North Lakes, Beachmere, focusing on tourism. We don't have much in common with Woodford, Samford, Mount Nebo. That's rural. We're on the beach. So let's have an area on the beach, easily accessed, and if you do that, we'll end up with some sense in this great amalgamation thing that was rushed into.
We'll come back to that question of amalgamation, and perhaps the real catchphrase at the moment is re-amalgamation rather than de-amalgamation.
Exactly.
And we'll come back to that very shortly, focus on it. Terry Jones, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about why you've put your hand up here. There's already two terrific candidates by the looks of it here, plus an incumbent looking for the vote. Why have you put your hand up here?
Well, I'm standing up for the local community, which need better services. I'm running to help the local community prosper. I have a background in helping people with disabilities find equality through employment, and I've got a degree in computers, which I believe will help me help the local council and that make it more accessible to people. One major things that I think is lacking in the Redcliffe area and other parts of Moreton Bay is public transport. 20% of all Queenslanders have a disability. Someone with my background is quite aware of how difficult it can be for people without a car actually getting around, especially in Redcliffe. So I'm wanting to see better services provided. So when it comes to public transport, when it comes to specialised parking for people with disabilities or senior citizens or parents with children, I'm wanting to make it so that it's actually equal for everyone in our society, so everyone can get around, everyone can participate in our society and not feel left out.
All right, terrific. Let's start with you, Peter, and let's talk about the issues that the voters of Division 5 in the Moreton Bay region, and particularly the Redcliffe area, what are they saying is their biggest issue coming to this local government election on the 28th of April?
There are many issues, Darren, but it basically comes down to saying the original promise when they amalgamated was that it's going to be cheaper. It was going to be cheaper to live in your own home. And what's happening is the savings they're claiming, which are over 100 million or something like that, aren't being passed on to the rates of the ratepayer. In other words, to live in Margate is cost you more. And these people, a lot of these people are on a fixed income, and as a result they can't afford these increasing costs. They can't afford the increase in costs of water. So we've got to have a rationalisation of the rates and pass the savings back to the ratepayer to make it less costly to live in your own home, and we've got to get the water debate and the cost of the grid and the fixed water charge, which Redcliffe suffered the biggest increase in the state, 66%. We've got to rationalise them and bring them under control, and the only way they can do that is to bring water under the control of the council. And the good news is in the last couple of days there's been an email out of the new state government, and they're going to look at the cost of the water grid, and they're going to bring the water under the council's control, and hopefully then we'll get some rationalisation of it. Hopefully it'll be cheaper for people who live in their own homes, and if they do that, we've got other minor issues. As I said, the development, that $25 million has been spent in Redcliffe Parade, it's been done without much design input, and the end result, it looks wonderful. It's an improvement, and let's hope, as a ratepayer in Redcliffe, let's hope there's been enough improvement to actually have development of the private land adjacent, and we'll at last see Redcliffe Shopping Centre developed accordingly. And the other issue in Redcliffe, one thing is the 35 acres, I think it is, out at Morris Road. Now, I've been part, as I said, of the Redcliffe City Council for 17 years before it was disbanded in 2008. This land is there. It's still there. I couldn't believe the Herald article was a little bit ambiguous. I believe they must have sold it off. And to tell a Redcliffe club, Aussie Rules club, that they had to go out of the city indicates they wanted some other use for that land. Now there's sufficient.
So we're talking about where the football club is located?
No, we're talking about along Morris Road, past the produce agency. You turn left there,
yes.
And then you'll see a great area of. It's been slashed by the council, bless their heart, and they've purchased some of the sites on Morris Road. That land is the logical place, the logical solution for the Tigers Aussie Rules Club. And if they applied for a major sport and recreation, like the tennis club, like the hockey club, they could be able to fund a new oval, clubhouse, everything. And the team would be really well equipped, and it'd become a centre of excellence for Aussie Rules, as well as a recreational area for the people of Rothwell. Well, let's hope it will.
Terry Jones, apart from you've analysed and isolated the public transport system there, what other issues do you see as what are the people telling you that they want improved in Redcliffe?
I think equality when it comes to rates and levies is a big thing. In the suburb of Newport, there's a levy which is being put on certain homes to do with the canal, whereas that levy isn't being put on canals elsewhere around the Moreton Bay area. So it looks like Division 5's been unfairly hit, whereas other ones are being laid off. So I think there should be equality when it comes to that. Similar when it comes to Unity Water. My understanding is that the the price being paid, and that for people in Moreton Bay, especially in Redcliffe, and that is higher than other parts and that actually use Unity Water. So I'd like to see equality in that. I think that we should be looking at having representation on Unity Water that is effective, and that in ensuring that people are actually represented, and not just allowing them to run a business which might be profitable but might not be serving the community.
It's 19 minutes past 9. This is the Morning Magazine. We're focusing on Division 5 today. Jackie Bowden, what other issues, you've isolated the ones at the start, but what are the other issues that people are telling you that is hurting them in Division 5?
Well, I'd like to throw my little bit in about the amalgamation that we didn't want to have, if you don't mind, Darren. The new state government also is going to set up a boundaries commission to look at the boundaries. I came into this campaign with an open mind about amalgamation, and I've been listening to the people and asking questions about what they would like to see happen. As well as that, I've been going around to various forums and meet the candidate forums, and I've been astounded that in other areas of the Moreton Bay Regional Council, other than Redcliffe, people of Redcliffe are actually not liked. Redcliffe is not liked. I came upon this just round the corner from Redcliffe at Deception Bay. There was quite a feeling of hostility, and it's perceived in the Moreton Bay Regional Council that Redcliffe are getting everything because they've just had the upgrade of the foreshores, and we're rather the glamorous touristy suburb in the region. And I don't know how long it's going to take before we can actually work in harmony as an amalgamated council. And the more I've looked and asked and realised, we are unique in Redcliffe, and I don't know that we're going to ever be an integrated part. So I will be looking very carefully at the state government's new Boundaries Commission. And I think Noosa is top of the list, and I think we are, I have it on good authority, a very close second to that.
All right, we'll have a quick break, and then we'll be back in about 60 to 90 seconds to discuss Division 5 a little more.
What do you have planned on Tuesday? Why not get out of the house, or when you're done at work, pop down to Birch Carroll & Coyle and see any regular film for only $8. That's half price. It cannot get any better than that. Half price Tuesdays are here to stay, with all regular sessions only $8 at Birch Carroll & Coyle, Morayfield.
Station sponsor.
Is your roof looking tired, faded, or letting down the appearance of your home? Concerned about the cost of professional roof restoration? Well, Low Cost Roofing will repair or replace your roof for less than you think. With all types of roofs, over 30 sensational colours, and all work is guaranteed. Low Cost Roofing will save you money, and pensioner discounts apply. Visit their website today and receive a free roof inspection. While you're there, check out their interest-free terms. lowcostroofing.com.au. Low Cost Roofing. Quality roof restorations for less.
Station sponsor.
I'm Glenn Woolman, a retired Army officer and Regimental Sergeant Major. Between the 16th and 24th of April, the week leading up to Anzac Day, the public will have the opportunity to purchase a badge in commemoration of the sacrifices made by our veterans. All proceeds assist in funding our numerous projects. A number of new badges will be on sale, and these will include Afghanistan, Iraq, Timor and peacekeeping. Your support is a proud investment in our nation's veterans.
101.5 FM, it's 23 minutes past 9. This is the Morning Magazine. We're focusing on Division 5, and that is the northern part of the Redcliffe area. The former Redcliffe City Council, Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston and Terry Jones join us in the studio today. Unfortunately, the incumbent was unable to be with us today, and for whatever reason, but we'll go on anyway and discuss the issues. One of the biggest issues that the Redcliffe, and it's obvious because you guys are all telling us here, is that that amalgamation, not so much de-amalgamation, but more re-amalgamation or realigning the boundaries of the Moreton Bay region. During our lead up to the state election, the member for Kalanga, then at the time, Marianne O'Neill, made a comment on this station that she believed, in hindsight, creating such a big monster council may have been a bad idea for 360 to 370,000. Now we've exceeded that as far as the population goes. I'll start with you, Jackie Bowden. If we were to get the approval from the state government to de-amalgamate, re-amalgamate, realign, whatever phrase we want to call it, where do you see Redcliffe fitting into the project as far as council goes? What sort of boundary do the people of Redcliffe see would be a best fit for them?
I don't think the people of Redcliffe have even considered it. They've been told repeatedly by Councillor Houghton, the incumbent, that it's not going to happen, forget it, get over it. So I think that they are trying to do that. There's new hope on the horizon, however, with the new state government, and I have not personally asked the question, where would you like to see the new boundaries be of the people of Redcliffe, because I don't think they're ready for that question yet. We all need the facts, the figures, the costs. We need some common sense put into the equation. On a personal note, I would like to see Deception Bay brought into it. As Peter said, the coastal areas, we are unique. So I certainly wouldn't like to see it very much bigger than that. One of the reasons...
So, sorry, Jackie, what sort of population do you believe is an effective population for a regional council, for a city council, or let's put a number on it?
Well, let's go 50,000.
That would be less than the size of the former Redcliffe City Council.
Well, what have we got now? I'm talking about... I've got my head locked into voters at the moment, I'm sorry. Yes, I would say... I don't actually know what we have got now in the whole of the Redcliffe City. I've concentrated on Division 5 and I haven't done the figures for the whole area.
I'd say the population of the former Redcliffe City Council would probably be, and Peter, you'd know this better than most of us, but yes, somewhere between 70 and 80,000 would have been the population of Redcliffe City prior to amalgamation?
Prior to amalgamation, Darren, the population of Redcliffe was 53. Easily enough, when you compare it with country electorates, where there's 3 or 4,000. Local governments of 3 or 4,000 stayed okay, and here we are thrown in together at 450,000 people. I'd say a figure of 100,000 is good. I think with the communications and the amount of money that this creates through rates and services is good, and I think to get those figures, if we include North Lakes, Deception Bay, Beachmere, Bribey's a little bit too far away. It's a bit too far away to be effective and cost effective, and we don't want tradesmen travelling all day to get to their point of home and travelling all the way back, as is the case now. The current system is too big. So if we had a local government focusing on that community of interest as we provide services to Deception Bay and things like that, focusing on that to North Lakes and Beachmere, I think would end up with a local authority out to the highway, and the end result would be a much more rational system than applies now.
Yes, I agree
because
with
bigger is not better, and it's been shown that. And the current council is still working in 3 areas. There is no centre of gravity for the new area, and I think it has to be rationalised. The state government, the new state government, has a big job to do to rationalise the mess of amalgamation that occurred in this area, and we've got to be treated exactly the same as Noosa and exactly the same as Port Douglas.
Terry Jones, you're nodding away, agreeing with those sort of statements. So, do we have a consensus that the Moreton Bay region should be realigned into four areas of about 100,000 population each? Would you agree with that, Terry?
I think that the community himself hadn't had an adequate say over things, but yes, if we're going to de-amalgamate, then I'd be saying 3 or 4 sections would be fine. Currently, there's 2 seats in Redcliffe area, so we would need to take in the equivalent of another seat's worth, at the very least, maybe even a fourth, depending on whether we're divided by 3 or 4. My understanding is there's about 380,000 people that live in Moreton Bay Shire. This is for the amount of square kilometres. That's a lot of people, and that to actually try to get consensus on ideas and things like that, trying to represent people. We've got different cultures, and I think that that's really what should be looked at. What is the culture of each area? We've got some which are high city areas and some which are strong rural areas, and trying to mould them all into one culture, I think over the last 4 years hasn't been all that successful.
It's 29 minutes past 9, 101.5 FM. We're having an in-depth look at Division 5 today, which is the northern end of the Redcliffe Peninsula, and having a look at that. And our guests today are Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston, and of course Terry Jones. Peter Houston, you were a councillor in the Redcliffe City for 17 years, you said. Has the alignment of the Redcliffe, Caboolture and Pine Rivers worked as far as the communication of everyone? Do we feel as a region or as a city as a whole, or are we still splintered into 3 districts?
Darren, we're still splintered into 3 districts. The councillors meeting in those 3 council chambers provided by the old councils. There's no centre of gravity. They can say, well, look, we've bought this place in North Lakes or something like that. But 4 years on, the people of Redcliffe and the people of Division 5 have had a chance to look at it, and it's not working. So bigger is not better.
So what could they have done? What could they have done different? And could it have been? Could it have worked? We are now 4 years on. Could it have worked? Could we have got this to mesh and this to gel?
If they had the time to do it. Terry McEnroth and his mates, Terry was for years saying we've got to rationalise the local government authorities. Okay, but he had a time frame, he rushed into it, he saw a big area between the North Coast and Brisbane and said, oh my God, what do we do with it? They didn't look at community of interest. They didn't look at provision of services. This was being discussed with Caboolture at the time and discussed with Pine Rivers. They didn't look at that. They rushed into it, and they said, and I think the attitude of the committee was to throw them in together. So, and they'll work it out because we haven't got time to look at it now.
I'll get to the other 2 very shortly on this, but based on what you're saying now, Peter Houston, you're saying to us that you don't believe this could ever work with the size of this council. It's too big, to work.
It's too big.
It's an unworkable situation for this Moreton Bay Regional Council.
Yeah, tradesmen and plumbers and people like this who work in Redcliffe are now working in Caboolture. So I spent over an hour travelling here today. So the cost, to be cost effective, they can't afford to be spending 2 hours a day travelling. Simple as that. So we've got to have a rationalisation of the whole thing, and this LNP government has the time to do it. They're in there for 3 years, as we know, and the McArdle, the minister, he's looking at the water, but the Minister for Local Government has to look at the boundaries, and there is a format that they've promised Noosa, and they've been up there to do it, that we've got to achieve the same formula. And that's basically drawing the Boundaries Commission, basically drawing the boundaries, having a poll of the people involved saying, do you want a local authority? If it's well over 50%, that local authority will be formed. And I think the people of Redcliffe want that. And if you look at those areas on the bay with Redcliffe as the centre of operations, it works out quite well.
Jackie Bowden, do you agree with what Peter Houston's saying there? And if you are elected, is that one of the things you would be pushing for to get the council into a workable size?
Yes, definitely. And there's a very topical problem that's arisen. This is what I've been discovering. With do we want to be a democracy or do we not want to be a democracy? We are running a campaign now for the Moreton Bay Regional Council for the council elections. Now, if we're wanting to get a new mayor, for example, he has over 70 booths to actually man on polling day. He has an enormous area to get around. If he's not already known, if he doesn't have a popular name or a well-known name, he has got to spend an absolute fortune on his campaign. Now, the only way that is sustainable, in my view, is to bring in party politics. Or you're going to get a lot of developers or perhaps people you wouldn't necessarily want to fund campaigns. Now, I can't see any other way of getting around that when you're trying to run a campaign in such a huge area. Now, we're very proud to have kept party politics out of our regional councils. Is this what the people want? Is this the way they want to see it go? Because, to be honest, I cannot see an answer to this if we stay with this enormous council.
Are we on the verge of party politics at this election?
I think on every election we're on the verge of it, to be honest. But I think it will be pushed over the edge. Yes, we will. Else we're not going to get new, fresh candidates. You need fresh people coming in, people without baggage. I have no baggage. I don't know what councils did in the past or didn't do in the past in the intimate details of their meetings. Therefore, I can't say, oh no, that doesn't work, we tried that. I have got no baggage. I've got a wealth of life experience, ideas, travel, business experience, and I have a great passion for the community, and that's what I will be bringing.
Terry Jones, you've obviously expressed your interest in the amalgamation and de-amalgamation. If you're elected to council, would you be pushing for those smaller representation areas?
Yes, if I was elected, I'd be pushing for better representation of the people. As I said, I don't think that people have had an opportunity to actually have a say over these things. We've basically, the state government strong-armed Redcliffe and made it so that they had to amalgamate 4 or 5 years ago. So people really should have had a say back then. But if de-amalgamation does occur, then I would agree with the principle of about 90 or 100,000 per shire, and that would be allowing for smaller groups so that people can get back to the actual roots. I agree with what Jackie was saying, that it makes it hard for candidates to actually run in larger areas because you have to spend more, you have to get your have more supporters than what it would have been previously.
It's 36 minutes past 9. I want to get on to the issue of the mayoralty. Yes, sorry, Petty,
Darren, if I could. I think Jackie's raised a good point. After the date of the last election, people of Redcliffe and Moreton Bay region found out that a developer had funded the mayoral campaign of Alan Sutherland. That, to me, is no good. As soon as a developer promises, and I've said this to ECQ, as soon as a developer promises to either pay someone's bills or contribute to that campaign, that should be declared to ECQ, and there should be a time limit on that. So people go in to vote knowing that a developer has funded a particular candidate's campaign. And I think that in fairness is above board, that in fairness is honest, that in fairness is open, and people can make a judgment accordingly. But to declare it after the election is totally incorrect, and really hits at democracy in the heart. You know, there's no doubt about that.
I think just by looking at the nodding right across the board, I think we've got a consensus in this room here. What I want to move on to now is the mayoralty. Are we electing the mayor the right way, or should a mayor have a constituency and then perhaps the mayor is elected by the council as such, as just an idea that someone put forward? I see Terry Jones is shaking his head vehemently there. Tell us, Terry, what's your thought on the mayoralty election?
The problem with the current system, which you see right across the board, is that if one ideology gets elected as mayor and another one as local council representatives, then essentially what you got is you got the mayor and local council fighting each other. They should be working with each other, and the best way to do that is having the majority of local councillors actually selecting the mayor, so then the mayor is working with the local council and not possibly against it.
So if we were to put this into place, then there would be 13 divisions, and one of those 13 councillors, on your proposal, Terry Jones, would be elected by the majority of councillors to become the mayor, the same way as the deputy mayor is elected. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I think that would be a far more effective system. What that would mean is that individuals would actually be electing someone to local council, and the local councillors then would decide amongst themselves who their leader would be amongst the ideology that is formed. It would stop the disagreements that's occurring where people are being segregated and such, and where dirty tactics are being used as currently is occurring.
Jackie Bowden, your thoughts on that?
To be honest, Darren, I had not thought about that. I had just thought about the inequity of what it is now and how it borders on infringing our democracy. But now I'm thinking about it, I can't see immediately a problem with doing it that way. It would be democratic, it would be fair, and it could quite possibly prevent any kind of corruption, or a lot of corruption. So, yes, I'm going to think about that one a little bit more, but at the moment I think it's got considerable merit.
Peter Houston.
Darren, I have to disagree with Terry. This system that where the council elects the mayor, it has an advantage. It has an advantage in that it breeds cooperation between the councillors, which is more productive. But it depends on the councillors knowing each other before the election, because they have to elect a mayor. And so whether the person is good or bad or indifferent or progressive or not progressive or has party affiliations or hasn't got party affiliations is not known. And let's face it, someone coming from Woodford is different to someone coming, say, from Redcliffe. And someone coming from the far end of Samford is different for someone at Bribie Island, and they don't know each other. Now, if they are electing the mayor out of their councillors, I think the best result in that situation where they don't know each other is to let the people elect the mayor. And I think if you do that and have a separate election, well, there's no complaints, because the people, through the democratic system, have elected the mayor, which is the current system we have.
To be honest, I don't think that's a sound argument, Peter, because there would be due process. It would not be, okay, first meeting, let's get our mayor together. There would be due process of getting to know, and certainly through campaigning, you get to know your candidates. I know I've learned a lot about my fellow candidates during this campaign, so I don't really, with all due respect, think that's a sound argument. So I'm still thinking in favour of it.
Well, people don't know each other, and that's the problem. And that was the problem last time.
And the voters don't know anyone either.
Well, the voters, at least, the democratic system, it will allow for the voters to vote for the mayor. And I think they can't go past that system. As long as we have that as a fallback situation, it works.
We'll
and now, some councils have the mayor for 12 months. Then they rotate it amongst the councillors. So those councils aren't very productive as far as capital works and services. I've found in the
past. We're not
past.
advocating that the mayor disappears after a year.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie. If I could finish, but as a result, they have to know each other, and they don't know each other sufficiently well enough to do that. The place is too big for that to happen. If it was a smaller area, they knew each other, and they knew what they stood for, well, okay, you have that election amongst the councillors. But admittedly, the most democratic system is where the public votes for the mayor, and that's what we have in the moment.
Excuse me, but with this new format that suddenly sprung up into my mind, it's growing momentum. With all
is that because Peter disagrees with it?
Absolutely not. It's just not a sound enough argument in my case. In my reasoning, because the people would be voting for the mayor, anybody would be a potential mayor. As it is now, I have got people ringing me up and saying, who do I vote for mayor? Who do I know who's going to be the mayor? I don't know anybody. We haven't got enough information, because all of the information has to be self-funded by the mayor, or as I said before, funded by somebody. It's very hard for candidates, mayoral candidates, or any candidate to get the message to the people. Now, the voters have to make the best choice they can, and maybe they are not in the best position to pick the mayor. Maybe they can choose the 13 division councillors, and then let the councillors choose the mayor. I think that's a more democratic process, to be honest.
Well, Darren, if I could interrupt Jackie. I hate to do this. I can see that. But it is. The fact is, it's so big that they don't know each other. And that could be the detriment of the productivity in that first year, because after all, with an election on the 28th of April, they're going to have to work hard to have that first budget brought into play. And believe me, being on council, if you miss out that first budget, you miss out 12 months. So if you want to do something, you've got to do it straight away. The place is too big. If it was a smaller way, great. Let's have the mayor elected by the councillors. But at the moment, it's not.
All right, we'll have around to our way of thinking. I can see that.
We'll have a quick break, about 90 seconds, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more about Division 5 here on 101.5 FM. It's 9:44. It's 9:45, 101.5 FM. Good morning, everyone. The Morning Magazine, you're with Darren right through until 11 o'clock today. And at the moment, we're focusing on Division 5 of the Moreton Bay Regional Council. Of course, 28th of April is the election day for local government authorities. And joining us in the studio today is Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston, and of course Terry Jones. Unfortunately, Councillor Houghton was unable to attend today. One of the subjects before we went on a break, Peter Houston, was that you spoke about budget terms, and I'll start with Jackie, if I can, on this next subject of fixing the terms as it is in council. We normally have our elections every March. It's been put back a month this time. Is there a thought process that we should move those to October to give the council a fair chance to bed themselves in before moving to budget times?
Well, as I have yet to experience what it's like to be in council and work with the budget to get the budget out, I can only answer that in what I would imagine. I haven't heard it be a problem previous to this year, because this election has been obviously put back a whole month, which would make a huge difference. I would like to get some opinions from people with a lot of experience on budgeting and the time frame of budgeting after elections before I made a decision on whether or not it would be a good idea to move it. But certainly to be open-minded and flexible in this area, and then put forward recommendations to change is a good thing.
Peter Houston? Darren, glad you brought this issue up, because even when the election was March, to have an input by the new council members who are adjusting to the position, who are working together, have the budget ready by the end of June is incredible. And now we've been postponed a month, so they've got a month less. It's a ridiculous situation. The Local Government Association of Queensland has tried previously to do two things. One's to get constitutional recognition, the other is to have the elections in September. September, October. And then when the incoming council can easily work on that budget and have it produced by the end of June. You've really got to have a steep learning curve as it stands now, and a steeper one this time, to actually get that budget in place, to get all the services in place and capital works in place that you want to do, because no doubt every new council wants to change the direction, wants to head down a different path. So if there was back in September, October, it's by far easier for a new council to set that first budget in place. And if the election was then, it'd be away from the state government. It wouldn't clash. We're on a 4-year term, they're on a 3-year term. It wouldn't clash, and it'd give the opportunity to form that new budget, as you say.
It makes sense.
Terry Jones, thoughts on that?
I agree with Peter there. I think that it does need to be moved. I think it does need to be moved later into the year. I think it's too problematic, especially now at end of April, which means that once the candidates are actually elected, then by the time they're actually the writs come back, and that it's going to be probably mid-May, so you'll be looking at six weeks sort of thing. So that's not a long time.
Tough ask, no doubt about it.
Well, a multi-million-dollar budget's ridiculous, actually.
Yes.
It's 9:49. We're going to be wrapping up very shortly. An in-depth look into Division 5. What I want to focus on now is, and we'll start with you, Terry Jones, is on this current four-year term that we've had here, the first of the Moreton Bay Regional Council. Who's been the big winners and losers as a result of this first term of this present council?
I think the big losers have been Redcliffe, in particular people who are paying unfair levies, whereas, as I said earlier, other parts of Caboolture, Pine Rivers and other parts of Moreton Bay aren't paying a levy for their canals, whereas Newport residents are. I think that a lot of people are suffering because of the increases in the water rates. I don't think that there's been that much improved when it comes to public services. It's still really hard to actually get around Redcliffe and that for people, say, with disabilities, or the elderly, or people that just don't have cars. So there's some of the things which I think have really lost out in that in the last 4 years.
So the winners who've been the recipients of the victories, if you like, as a result of this council.
Well, from what I hear, developers have been successful through Alan. I've never been a big fan of his, but I don't think there's been a lot of winners due to the fact that prices keep on going up, and the local council has not really done a lot, as far as I'm concerned, to help the average person that's living.
Jackie Bowden, winners and losers of this present term?
I think maybe the winners are some of the incumbents that like to brag about how much they've achieved during this past 4 years with their big spending projects. I think because of that, the losers are most ratepayers and most residents who are still looking to get the sewerage fixed so it doesn't flood all over the road when we have our seasonal rains, to get the footpaths and the roads maintained, to have bylaws enforced on visual pollution. Prioritisation has just not been on the agenda in any common sense way. We've got waste. We've had fanciful, unnecessary projects. When you've got organisations like the Redcliffe Community Association who are dealing with the unpopular things, the people that come that are hungry, mental health problems, women victims of domestic violence, we've got nowhere to put them. We just have to reprioritise, set a vision for sure for Redcliffe, but certainly get some priorities right. The soul of Redcliffe is not right. It needs to be fixed.
Peter Houston.
Darren, I've thought about this in detail, and one of the reasons I'm standing is there's no winners. Unfortunately, this area is so big that and the cost of living in your own home is so high as a result, although they've claimed savings, that it's more expensive to live in your own home. The design capacity hasn't been put into the capital projects they've done in Redcliffe. And perhaps there are some winners. You know, we've had the hub here in Caboolture, we've had the foreshore done in Redcliffe, and we've had apparently planning or something developed in Strathpine. It's very wonderful. You know, it's wonderful to see this capital works, but at the expense of that, it's more costly to live in your own home. As Jackie said, maintenance hasn't been completed. They're ignoring maintenance on the roads, and it's rather damning to see the incumbent try and explain that away in his letter to the electorate. You know, Division 5. So, you know, there's no winners, and there's more losers, as I said.
Time's on the wing. We're 6 minutes away from the news at the top of the hour. So one quick question for all of you before I give you a chance to wrap up. Preferencing, Jackie Bowden, any preferencing? Will you be doing preference deals at this election?
Do you know, I think a lot of people might already know what my intentions are, but let's leave it as a surprise for the 28th.
Peter Houston?
Oh, look, I think you've got to be open and honest in all these things.
I knew you would. I didn't have to.
Preference deals?
Jackie and I are exchanging preferences. There's no doubt about that. And I think it's with these fixed divisions, it is optional preferential.
Yes.
And I'd ask all the people out there who are going to vote on the 28th of April to think about and number every square and exchange those preferences, and then they should see some rationalisation of this whole thing.
Terry Jones?
Well, I'll be putting James last on mine. I don't think he's done a good job in the last 4 years. So I'll be putting these two over here, 2 and 3. I'll be discussing with them.
All right, time is on the wing. We've got 60 seconds each to tell us why the constituents should be voting for you, and we'll start with you. We'll start with Peter, former councillor for 17 years, so I don't want to take your glory, but you've got 60 seconds. Tell us why.
Well, the advantage is the experience that we have with Redcliffe City Council, being able to read a balance sheet, understand the finances and the technical problems involved. But the big issue this election is the cost of living in your own home. It hasn't improved, and actually it's got worse. And even though they claim they've made these savings, they haven't been passed on to the ratepayer. And as a result, the end result is it's become more costly to live in your own home. They've yet to do a town plan for the whole area. So let's see some rationalisation of the amalgamation mess we have. Let's see it make it cheaper, and I think if we do that, we'll have achieved something over the next 4 years.
Terry Jones?
If elected, I'll be helping bring equality in our society. As I've said previously, I have a background in helping people with disabilities. So I think that certain individuals, such as people with disabilities and senior citizens, are often overlooked in our society, and I'd like to do what I can to help them in particular be more able to get around, as well as other services that would help them out.
Jackie Bowden?
Well, I've owned 3 businesses and helped my son run another. I can read a balance sheet. I'm also a director of our business. We had winding down a wool broking business. I bring passion to Division 5, and I have a clear vision of priorities and what needs to be done to make it a much better place for everybody, some equity, some fairness to everybody, and I think we should get the community to be aware of the essential services and the things that go on in Redcliffe that aren't so glamorous, that people don't necessarily know about, but who need desperately need help and desperately need funding to bring that soul back into Redcliffe.
I do thank you very much for your time. This has been Division 5, the Redcliffe area, the northern parts of Redcliffe. The Moreton Bay Regional Council elections are on the 28th of April. Jackie Bowden, Peter Houston and Terry Jones, as we wish everyone the best of luck, and may the people of Redcliffe and the Moreton Bay region be the winners after the 28th of April. Good luck to you all, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Darren.